The wind screamed through the Bitterroot Mountains, a banshee's wail that carried snow like shards of glass. I knelt by the frozen river, my breath clouding in the sub-zero air, checking the last of my traps. My hands, wrapped in elk hide, ached as I pried a beaver pelt free, its fur crusted with frost. The cold bit deeper than usual, sinking into my bones, but it was the other ache, the one that never left, that kept me awake at night. 3 years ago, I'd buried my daughter, Ellie, after a settler raid turned our cabin to ash. At 32, I'd learned to live with the weight of her absence, but every gust felt like her small hand tugging at my coat, whispering my failures. The river was a sluggish ribbon of ice, its surface cracked like old glass. My boots crunched as I stood, scanning the pines that loomed like silent sentinels. My cabin, a half-mile up the slope, was a squat shadow against the snow, its chimney smoke curling thin and weak. The Bitterroot didn't forgive weakness, and neither did I. I'd carved a life here, trapping furs, trading just enough to survive, keeping Fort Owen's gossip and greed at arm's length. But today, the air felt wrong, heavy with something more than snow. That's when I saw him, a boy, no older than 10, staggering through the drifts, maybe 100 yards off. His fringed buckskin marked him Blackfoot, but he moved like a wounded animal, one arm clutched to his chest, his steps faltering. His face was gray, lips blue, hair matted with snow. Most trappers would have turned away. Fort Owen's folk, called the Blackfoot Savages, blamed them for every missing horse or burned barn. Tensions ran hot since the settlers pushed deeper into Montana, and a lone boy was trouble waiting to happen. But I saw Ellie in his small frame, in the way his knees buckled, and my heart twisted. I dropped the pelt, raising my hands to show them empty. "Hey, kid," I called, voice rough from weeks of silence. "You lost?" He froze, eyes wide as obsidian, glinting with fear and defiance. He said something in Blackfoot, faint and slurred, then collapsed, snow puffing around him like a sigh. I ran, my breath steaming, the cold clawing my lungs. Kneeling beside him, I saw blood frozen on his arm, a shallow cut, not deep but enough to sap his strength. His other hand clutched a leather pouch, its beaded wolf pattern catching the dim light. Sacred, I thought, and trouble. But his face small, scared. So like Ellie's when she'd clung to me, chased the thought away. I scooped him up, light as a bundle of kindling, his body cold against my chest. The wind howled, snow piling higher, erasing our tracks as I trudged to my cabin. The pines creaked, their branches heavy with ice, and I felt eyes on me, not wolves, but something human, hidden in the storm. Inside, the fire crackled, casting shadows on the log walls, the air thick with the smell of pine and smoke. I laid the boy on my cot, near the stove, and grabbed my medical kit, a battered tin with bandages, thread, and a half-empty flask of whiskey. His eyes fluttered open as I cleaned the cut, hissing at the whiskey's sting. "Easy," I said, threading a needle with clumsy fingers. "You're safe." The wound was clean, likely from a knife, not deep enough to kill but enough to weaken him in this cold. I stitched it, steady despite the memories it stirred Ellie's fevered skin, her shallow breaths. I pushed the thought down, wrapping the boy's arm in clean cloth. He watched me, wary but sharp, his gaze flicking to the pouch still clutched tight. I handed him a tin cup of broth, the steam curling like a ghost. "Drink," I said. He sipped slowly, hands shaking, then pointed to the pouch. "Keme," he said, touching his chest, his English broken but clear. "Cora," I replied, nodding. "What are you running from, Keme?" He looked away, fingers tracing the pouch's beads. "Bad man," he whispered. "In my tribe." I didn't press. The frontier was full of bad men. Blackfoot, settler, didn't matter. I gave him Ellie's blanket, its edges frayed from her small hands. "Rest," I said. "We'll sort it come morning." Dusk fell, the snow heavier now, the wind rattling the shutters like a warning. I checked my Sharps rifle, leaning by the door, its barrel cold as the river. Peering out the window, I saw only pines, their branches bowing under the snow's weight, but the hairs on my neck stood up. I'd found tracks near my traps last week, Blackfoot snowshoes, circling closer. If Keem was running, someone was chasing, and that pouch meant it wasn't just any chase. A knock shook the door, hard enough to rattle the hinges. I grabbed the rifle, motioning Keem to stay low. "Who's there?" I called, voice steady despite my racing heart. "Micah," came the reply, gruff and familiar. I cracked the door, rifle ready. Micah, a gray-bearded trapper who traded pelts at Fort Owen, stood bundled in furs, his sled dog panting, its eyes glowing in the dark. "Heard you had trouble, Cora," he said, his breath steaming. Tracks by the river, small ones. Ain't your business, I said, blocking the doorway. What do you want? He leaned closer, his eyes flicking past me. Word's out in Fort Owen. Blackfoot boy's missing. Settlers say he burned a barn. Bounty's on him $50. My blood went cold. A bounty meant trouble, the kind that didn't stop at words. No boy here, Micah. Just me in the snow. He studied me, his face weathered as the pines. Hope you're right. Amos Reed's riding with a posse. They'll be here by dawn. And Cora. He paused, voice low. They ain't the only ones looking. Blackfoot track's been seen too. He left, his dog's howl fading into the storm. I barred the door, turning to Keem. He was awake, clutching the pouch, eyes wide with fear. Amos? He whispered, the name heavy with dread. Bounty hunter, I said, checking the rifle's breech. You know him? Kem nodded, his face pale. He chased me, wants this. He held up the pouch, its beads glinting in the firelight. What's in it? I asked, keeping my voice calm. He hesitated, then opened it, revealing a small stone amulet, carved with a wolf's head, its eyes tiny chips of turquoise. Sacred, he said. My people's. I took it. To stop. Bad man. I cursed under my breath. A stolen Blackfoot amulet meant a death sentence, maybe for both of us. Who's after you, Kem? Your tribe? He looked away, fingers tightening on the amulet. Tala, warrior. She wants it back, for honor. I didn't know Tala, but I knew Blackfoot warriors didn't forgive theft, especially of sacred relics. My mind raced. Amos Reed was a killer, a scar-faced bounty hunter who'd gut his own kin for $1. If he was coming, and Tala too, my cabin was a trap waiting to spring. I checked the window again, the storm a white wall now, but I heard it a low chant, faint through the wind. Blackfoot close. Sleep, I told Keme, though I knew neither of us would. I banked the fire, the room dimming, and sat by the door, rifle across my lap. Ellie's tintype sat on the table, her smile frozen in time. I touched it, the metal cold, and saw her burning cabin again, the flames licking the sky. I'd failed her, but I wouldn't fail Kime. Morning came gray and brutal. The snow knee-deep, the wind a constant howl. I bundled in my coat, checking my traps downriver. They were empty, lines cut, pelts gone. Tracks crisscrossed the snow boots, not snowshoes. Amos's men, softening me up. My traps were my livelihood, and without them, I'd starve by spring. I trudged back, the cold biting my face, and saw smoke too thick for my chimney. My heart pounded as I ran, the snow dragging at my boots. Keme was outside, feeding the fire, his face set like stone. They're close, he said, pointing to fresh tracks, Blackfoot snowshoes, circling the cabin, and boot prints, heavier, from the west. Tala, and others. Get inside, I snapped, scanning the pines. A glint caught my eye metal, maybe a rifle barrel, flashing through the trees. Then hoofbeats, heavy and fast, shaking the ground. 5 riders burst from the forest, led by Amos Reed, his scar-twisted face unmistakable under a wide-brimmed hat. His posse carried Sharp's rifles, their coats dusted with snow, horses snorting clouds of steam. Cora Finch, Amos called, reining up 20 yards from my porch. His voice was gravel, his eyes cold as the ice. You got a Blackfoot thief in there. Hand him over, or we take him. I stepped onto the porch, rifle loose in my hands, the wood creaking under my boots. The air smelled of snow and horse sweat, the wind carrying a faint chant from the trees. No thief here, Amos, I said, voice steady. Just a woman trying to survive. He spat into the snow, the gob freezing instantly. Don't play coy. Settlers want that boy for burning their barn. $50, Cora. Split it with you. Kem peeked from the window, his eyes wide, the amulet pouch clutched to his chest. I kept my face stone, my grip on the rifle tightening. Ain't no boy here. Ride on. Amos's grin was a wolf's, all teeth and no mercy. You're lion, and lion gets you dead. His men spread out, rifles raised, their shadows long in the gray light. I heard the chant again, Blackfoot, closer now, a low rhythm like a heartbeat. Tala's warriors waiting in the trees. Amos, I said, voice low. You start a fight. You'll get more than you bargained for. Blackfoot are watching. His eyes flicked to the pines, his grin faltering for a split second. He knew about Tala, or at least suspected. Last chance, Cora. Hand him over, or we burn this place down. I glanced at Keme, his face so like Ellie's when she'd been scared, hiding in our cabin as the raiders came. I saw the flames again, Heard her screams. Not this time. I stepped into the snow, rifle up, the cold biting my knuckles. Kem stays with me, I said, heart pounding like a war drum. You want him, you'll have to kill me first. The wind howled, and the pines leaned closer, their branches heavy with snow, waiting for blood. Amos's men cocked their rifles, the clicks sharp in the silence. From the trees, a shadow moved, a Blackfoot warrior, her lance gleaming, her face painted with grief and fury. Tala. The storm held its breath, and I knew there was no going back. The snow fell like a curtain, swallowing the world in white. I stood on my porch, rifle raised, heart pounding like a war drum. Kemme behind me, his small frame pressed against the cabin wall. Amos Reed's posse, 5 men, rifles cocked, formed a ragged line 20 yards out, their horses snorting clouds of steam. In the pines, Tala's chant echoed, low and rhythmic, her warriors hidden but close. The air smelled of frost and gun oil, the wind biting my knuckles as I gripped my sharps. I'd told Amos to back off, but his scar-twisted grin said he wasn't listening. Cora Finch, Amos growled, his voice cutting through the storm. You're making a mistake. That boy's a thief, and the Blackfoot'll burn this valley for him. Hand him over, and we walk away. No deal, I said, voice steady, despite the cold fear in my gut. Keem stays. You want him, you'll have to shoot me. Keem's hand brushed my coat, his breath shallow. They will kill you, he whispered, his English halting. Tala, too. She wants the amulet. I glanced at him, his eyes wide, clutching the beaded pouch with the wolf amulet. That stolen relic was a death sentence, and I'd just put myself between it and 2 kinds of hell. Stay low, I told him, eyes locked on Amos. Amos's men shifted, their rifles glinting in the gray light. From the trees, a shadow moved. Tala, her lance raised, face painted with red and black stripes, her buffalo robe dusted with snow. Her warriors, maybe 6, fanned out behind her, snowshoes silent on the drifts. She shouted in Blackfoot, her voice sharp, and Keem flinched, recognizing her words. She says I shamed my people, he whispered. She says I must pay. Pay how? I asked, not taking my eyes off Amos. Blood, he said, voice small. Mine. Or yours. Amos laughed, a sound like breaking ice. You hear that, Cora? Even his own kind want him dead. Save yourself the trouble. I tightened my grip, the rifle stock cold against my cheek. Ride out, Amos. Last chance. He spat into the snow, his men edging closer. Then a rifle cracked, the bullet splintering the porch post beside me. Keem ducked and I fired back, aiming high, the shot echoing off the pines. Amos's men scattered, taking cover, but Tala's warriors didn't flinch. An arrow whistled past, burying itself in the snow near Amos's horse. The beast reared, and Amos cursed, struggling to control it. Enough, I shouted, stepping into the snow, rifle up. Amos, Tala, you want a war? You'll get one, but it won't end with Kem. Tala stepped forward, her lance gleaming, eyes locked on Kemme. You protect a thief, white woman, she said, her English thick but clear. Return the amulet, or your blood joins his. I didn't take it, I said, voice low. He's a kid, Tala. Half frozen, scared. Let's talk this out. She didn't answer, just pointed her lance at Kemme, who shrank back. Amos seized the moment, signaling his men. Take the boy, he roared, and 2 riders charged, rifles raised. I fired, clipping one man's hat, sending him tumbling into the snow. Kem bolted for the cabin, but Tala's warriors moved faster, cutting him off. I lunged, grabbing Kemme's arm, dragging him behind me as an arrow grazed my coat, tearing the elk hide. Inside, I yelled, shoving him through the door. The cabin was no fortress, just logs and hope, but it was all we had. I barred the door, pushing Kem to the floor. Stay down, I said, peering through the window. Amos's men circled, their torches flaring through the blizzard. Tala's warriors held back, waiting, their chance a low pulse in the storm. Cora, Kemme whispered, clutching the amulet pouch. They will burn this place. Like my mother. My heart stopped. Your mother? I asked, keeping my eyes on the window. Settlers, he said, voice breaking. They burned our camp. She died. I ran. The words hit like a blade, slicing open my own wounds. Ellie's face flashed her screams. The flames. I'm sorry, I said, throat tight. But I ain't them. We're getting out of this. He looked at me, eyes searching, like he wanted to believe but couldn't. A crash shook the cabin. Amos's men, battering the door. I fired through the window, a warning shot, and heard a shout of pain. Back off, I yelled, reloading. my hands shaking from cold and fear. "We gotta move," I said, grabbing my pack food, blankets, a spare knife. "There's a trail through the canyon, leads to the high pass. If we make it, we can lose 'em." Kem nodded, tucking the amulet into his buckskin. I cracked the back window, checking the pines. No shadows yet, but Tala's warriors were out there, silent as wolves. We slipped out, the snow swallowing our steps, the wind howling like a mourner. The canyon was a mile off, its walls hidden in the blizzard, but I knew the path narrow, treacherous, our only shot. We ran, Kemi's breath ragged, his wound slowing him. My coat dragged heavy with snow, the cold burning my lungs. Behind us, shouts Amos's men, spotting our tracks. A rifle shot cracked, the bullet kicking up snow to my left. I pulled Keem behind a pine, its branches sagging under the storm's weight. "Keep moving," I said, pushing him ahead. The canyon loomed, its walls black against the white, a frozen maze of rock and ice. We scrambled up a slope, the snow sliding under our boots, my hands numb on the rifle. A howl cut through the wind, not Amos's men, but wolves, their eyes glinting in the distance. The bitterroot was alive, and it was hungry. We reached the canyon mouth, ducking into a crevice where the wind was quieter, the air thick with the smell of damp stone and pine. Keme leaned against the rock, panting, his face pale. "They will find us," he said. "Tala knows these paths." "Then we move faster," I said, checking my pack. "A day's food, maybe 2. Not enough." I handed Kema a strip of jerky. "Eat. Keep your strength." He chewed slowly, eyes on the amulet pouch. "Why do you help me?" he asked, voice small. "You could give me to them. Be safe." I crouched, meeting his gaze. "Because I lost someone like you. My daughter, Ellie. I couldn't save her, but I can save you." He stared, then nodded, a flicker of trust in his eyes. But trust was fragile, and the storm was closing in. We moved deeper into the canyon, the walls narrowing, the snow piling high. My boots sank with every step, the cold seeping through my gloves. I heard hooves Amos's men, closer now, their torches like demon eyes in the blizzard. "Cora," a voice called, not Amos's. Micah, the trapper, his sled dog barking. He rode alone, his face half hidden by a scarf. "You're making a mistake," he said, reining up. "Amos'll kill you. Tala, too. Give me the boy, and I'll talk him down." I raised my rifle, heart sinking. Micah had been a friend, or close as trappers got. "You're working for Amos now?" I asked, voice hard. He looked away, snow dusting his beard. $50 is a lot, Cora. I got debts." Keme grabbed my arm, his voice urgent. "He lies. He will take the amulet." I kept my rifle steady. "Ride out, Micah. Don't make me shoot you." He hesitated, then wheeled his horse, disappearing into the storm. But I knew he'd be back, with Amos or worse. The canyon was a trap now, and we were running out of time. We pushed on, the path twisting, the walls closing in. A low growl stopped us wolves, 3 of them, their eyes glowing in the dark. I fired into the air, the shot echoing, and they scattered, but the sound would draw Amos's men. "Cora," Keem said, pointing to a cave mouth, half hidden by ice. "There, we hide." I nodded, leading him inside. The cave was cold, its walls slick with frost, the air heavy with the smell of earth. We crouched behind a stalagmite, my rifle ready. Outside, the storm raged, but I heard voices Amos's men, shouting, and the faint chant of Tala's warriors. They were converging, and we were cornered. Keem clutched the amulet, his face pale. "I stole it," he said, voice breaking. "My uncle. He hurt my mother. Beat her. The amulet was his power. I took it to stop him." I stared, the weight of his words sinking in. "Your mother's gone," I said, not a question. He nodded, tears freezing on his cheeks. "Settlers burned our camp. She hid me, but she died." The words cut deeper than the cold. Ellie's screams echoed again, the flames swallowing our cabin. "I lost my daughter the same way," I said, voice hoarse. "Raiders. I wasn't there. I've carried that every day." Kem looked at me, his eyes older than his years. "You helped me? Because of her?" "Yeah," I said. "And because you're worth saving." A shout outside Micah's voice, louder now. "Cora, they're here!" I peered out, seeing torchlight through the storm. Amos's men, 6 now, dismounted, rifles raised. Tala's warriors appeared on the opposite ridge, their snowshoes silent, lances gleaming. Micah stood between them, pointing to the cave. Damn you, Micah, I muttered, grabbing Keem. We gotta move. The cave sloped downward, its floor icy, treacherous. We ran, slipping, the air growing colder, the walls tightening. A crack echoed a rifle shot, bouncing off the stone. Amos's men were inside, their torches casting jagged shadows. I heard Tala's chant, closer, her warriors entering from another tunnel. The cave shook, a low rumble growing louder. Ice cracked above us, chunks falling, the ceiling groaning. Run, I yelled, pushing Keem ahead. We stumbled through a narrow passage, the walls collapsing behind us, sealing the entrance. My pack caught on a rock, tearing free, food and blankets lost in the rubble. We burst into the open, the storm blinding, the canyon a frozen hell. Keme fell, gasping, his wound bleeding through the bandage. I knelt, checking it, the cold numbing my fingers. Hold on, I said, tearing my scarf to rewrap it. But the chants were closer. Tala's warriors, emerging from the snow like ghosts. Tala stepped forward, her lance raised, eyes burning with grief. The amulet thief, she shouted, voice carrying over the wind. You shamed us all. Keme clutched the pouch, shaking but defiant. I took it for my mother, he yelled, his voice cracking. I stood, rifle up, shielding him. He's a kid, Tala. He's scared, alone. Let him go. She pointed her lance at me. You protect a thief, white woman. You die with him. Before I could answer, hoofbeats thundered Amos's men, breaking through the storm. There, Amos roared, his rifle aimed. A shot rang out, grazing my shoulder, blood hot against the cold. I stumbled, Keme grabbing my arm. Tala's warriors turned, lances ready, but Amos's men fired, a volley that sent one warrior down, blood staining the snow. Tala shouted, her warriors charging, and chaos erupted, arrows flying, rifles cracking, the storm swallowing the screams. I dragged Kem behind a boulder, my shoulder burning, my rifle slippery with blood. We're trapped, I said, reloading, 2 rounds left. Tala's got you, or Amos does. Either way, we're done. Keem's eyes met mine, desperate but fierce. You saved me. I trust you. The words hit harder than the bullet. I nodded, gripping his shoulder. Then we fight. But before I could move, Tala's warriors closed in, their snowshoes silent, lances gleaming. Tala grabbed Keme, wrenching him from my side, her knife at his throat. The amulet, she hissed, eyes locked on me. Or he dies. I raised my rifle, heart pounding, the storm roaring around us. Amos's men were closing, their torches a red haze in the snow. I was out of time, out of options, and Keem's life hung on a blade's edge. The blizzard roared, a white beast swallowing the canyon, its snow stinging my face like 1,000 tiny knives. I stood frozen, rifle raised, my shoulder bleeding hot against the cold, as Tala held Kem, her knife pressed to his throat. Her warriors, 5 now. One down in the snow formed a silent crescent, their lances gleaming through the storm. Amos Reed's posse, 6 men strong, closed in from the opposite ridge, their torches casting a red haze, rifles cocked. The air smelled of blood and pine, the wind carrying Tala's low chant, like a funeral dirge. Keem's eyes, wide with fear but fierce with trust, locked on mine, and I knew I'd die before I let him go. Tala, I shouted, voice raw over the storm. Let him go. He's a kid, not a thief. She didn't flinch, her face painted with grief and fury, her buffalo robe dusted with snow. He stole the wolf amulet, she said, her English sharp despite the accent. He shamed our people. His blood restores honor. Keem struggled, his voice cracking. I took it for my mother, to stop my uncle. Tala's eyes flickered, but her knife stayed steady. Your uncle is dead. You shamed us for nothing. Amos's laugh cut through, cold as the ice. Give it up, Cora. Hand over the boy, or we burn this canyon to hell. I swung my rifle toward him, 2 rounds left, my shoulders screaming. You'll die first, Amos, I growled. Back off, or I'll make sure of it. His men spread out, torches flaring, their boots crunching the snow. Tala's warriors shifted, lances raised, ready to strike. The canyon was a powder keg, and I was the spark. I lowered my rifle slightly, looking at Tala. You want honor? Killing a kid won't bring it. Let me talk to your elders. Let Keem explain. Tala's jaw tightened, but Keme spoke, his voice small but fierce. Cora saved me, Tala. She could have let me die. She didn't. A warrior shouted in Blackfoot, his lance pointing at me, but Tala silenced him with a look. You speak of elders, white woman, she said. Why should they trust you? Because I know loss, I said, throat tight. My daughter Ellie died in a raid. Settlers, like Amos. I failed her, but I won't fail Keem. Tala's eyes softened, just a fraction, but Amos seized the moment. Enough, he roared, raising his rifle. A shot cracked, the bullet grazing my leg, blood soaking my pants. I stumbled, catching myself on a boulder, pain exploding. Keem shouted, struggling against Tala's grip, and her warriors loosed arrows, one pinning an Amos's man to the snow, his scream swallowed by the storm. Stop, I yelled, staggering upright, rifle shaking in my hands. Tala, take me to your camp. Let Keme speak. If he's guilty, judge him there, not here. Tala studied me, snow clinging to her braids. You would walk into our camp, white woman, knowing you may not walk out? For him, I said, nodding at Kim. Yeah. She hesitated, then lowered her knife, still holding Keem's arm. We go. But if you lie, you both die. Amos's men fired again, bullets ricocheting off the rocks. Tala's warriors returned fire, arrows flying, and chaos erupted. I grabbed Keme as Tala ducked, pulling him behind the boulder. Stay with me, I said, reloading my last round. The storm thickened, snow blinding, the air thick with the smell of gunpowder and blood. Cora! A voice called Micah the traitor, his sled dog barking through the haze. He rode up, rifle raised, but his eyes were conflicted. Amos is coming with more men. You gotta run. You sold us out, I spat, aiming at him. Why should I trust you? He looked away, snow dusting his beard. I made a mistake. Let me help. I didn't lower the rifle, but I nodded. Cover us. We're heading to Tala's camp. Micah fired into the air, drawing Amos's men, giving us a chance. Tala led the way, her warriors flanking us, Keem between us, his wound bleeding again. The storm howled, the path a blur of snow and rock, the pines looming like ghosts. My leg throbbed, my shoulder burned, but I kept moving, Keem's small hand in mine. The Blackfoot camp was hidden in a high valley, its tipis barely visible through the blizzard. Fires flickered, their smoke curling into the sky, the air heavy with the smell of burning sage and buffalo hide. Tala's warriors led us to a central fire, where 7 elders sat, their faces weathered, eyes sharp as flint. The camp was alive, women weaving, children watching from the shadows, warriors standing guard. I was the first white woman here, and every eye judged me. Tala spoke in Blackfoot, her voice steady, pointing to Keem and the amulet pouch. The elders listened, their faces unreadable, the fire crackling between us. Keme stood beside me, trembling but defiant, his buckskin stained with blood. I kept my rifle low, my heart pounding like a trapped animal's. An elder, his hair white as the snow, spoke, his voice low and resonant. Tala translated, her eyes on me. He asks why you protect a thief. He's no thief, I said, voice hoarse. He's a boy who lost his mother. He took the amulet to stop a bad man. I'd do the same. Keme stepped forward, his voice small but clear. My uncle hurt my mother, he said in English. Then Blackfoot, his words spilling fast. The amulet was his power. I took it to save her memory. Cora found me, starving, dying. She gave me her food, her blanket. She's family. The word hit me like a bullet, tearing open the wound of Ellie's loss. I swallowed, meeting the elder's gaze. He's right, I said. He's mine now if he'll have me. The elders murmured, their eyes flicking between us. Tala's face softened, but a warrior tall, scarred, her brother's friend shouted, raising his lance. The amulet, he demanded. It belongs to us. Keem pulled the pouch from his buckskin, holding it out. Take it, he said, voice breaking. But don't hurt her. I grabbed his hand, stopping him. No, Keme. They need to hear you, not just the amulet. Before the elder could respond, a shout echoed Amos's voice, close, his posse breaking through the storm. Rifles cracked, and the camp erupted, warriors grabbing weapons, women pulling children to safety. Amos's men, 10 now, charged on horseback, torches blazing, their bullets tearing through tipis. Tala spun, her lance raised. You brought death, white woman, she shouted. But her eyes were on Amos, not me. I didn't bring him, I said, raising my rifle. But I'll help stop him. Tala hesitated, then nodded, a flicker of respect in her eyes. Fight with us, then. I pushed Keme behind a tipi, handing him my knife. Stay here, I said, joining Tala's warriors. The storm raged, snow mixing with gunpowder smoke, the air thick with screams and the clash of steel. I fired my last round, dropping one of Amos's men, then swung my rifle like a club, cracking another's skull. Tala fought beside me, her lance swift, blood staining the snow. Amos charged, his horse rearing, rifle aimed at me. "You're done, Cora," he roared. A bullet grazed my arm, and I fell, pain blinding. Keem shouted, running from the teepee, knife raised, but Tala grabbed him, pulling him back. The elder's voice cut through, sharp and Blackfoot. Tala translated, her voice urgent. "He says the spirits test us, not for war, but for mercy. Return the amulet, and you both live." I staggered up, blood soaking my coat. "Take it," I said, nodding to Kem. He handed the pouch to Tala, tears in his eyes. She opened it, the wolf amulet glinting in the firelight, and passed it to the elder. He held it, his face softening, then spoke. Tala turned to me. "You are granted safe passage. But Amos's men, they are yours to face." I nodded, grabbing a fallen warrior's lance. "Micah!" I shouted, seeing him in the chaos, fighting Amos's men. "Help me end this!" Micah fired, dropping another rider, but Amos was on me, his bowie knife flashing. I dodged, the lance heavy in my hands, and thrust, catching his shoulder. He roared, swinging, but Tala's lance struck his leg, and he fell, blood pooling in the snow. The remaining posse fled, their torches fading into the storm. The camp fell silent, the wind carrying the smell of blood and sage. Tala helped me up, her grip strong. "You fought for us," she said, voice low. "Why?" "For Kim," I said, looking at him safe now, the elder's hand on his shoulder. "And because I'm tired of losing." The elder spoke, Tala translating. "You have given back what was taken. You have fought for our people. Kem is yours if he chooses." Kem ran to me, hugging me tight, his voice muffled. "You're my family, Cora." I held him, tears freezing on my cheeks, Ellie's face fading but not gone. My cabin was lost. Amos's men would burn it, and the trappers would shun me, but I had Keme, and that was enough. Dawn broke, the storm easing, the sky a pale gray over the Bitterroot. Tala escorted us to the valley's edge, her warriors silent, their lances lowered. "Go," she said, "but know this land remembers you." I nodded, Keem's hand in mine, and we walked south, toward a new start. The snow stretched endless, but a small fire flickered in the distance, its light defiant against the cold, a spark of hope in a world of loss.